Welcome to the Delight Your Marriage podcast. You're joining me, Belah Rose, as I dive deep into the beauty, power, and truths about intimacy. Learn not only the practicals, but the heart behind what making love is all about. Delight your marriage. Hi there, listener. I'm thrilled that you're joining. It was such a joy to work with Bart. He is a professional that works with folks that are really suffering in the world. And I won't give too many details, but people that have been dealt a very difficult hand. And he and his wife have decided to serve in significant ways to help them. I love that. And we are committed to helping people who are in full-time ministry. So if you know your pastor needs to know about Delight Your Marriage, I would love for you to share this with them. We have significant discounts, and we have incredibly generous donors that are ready to offer them scholarships. So if you're in full-time ministry and you know this could bless you, or maybe you want to know about it, and plenty of people have done this, you want to go through the coaching yourself so that you can see, is this something I would recommend for others? So I invite you, delightym.com/cc. But Bart's story is cool because he doesn't come with an awful marriage. He comes with a marriage that he kind of felt bad. He felt like he wasn't being the husband he needed to be. And because he went through the program, he realized he really needed to make some changes so he could be the leader that God's assigned him to be in his life. So I look forward to letting you hear from Bart. He's really fantastic. So let's dive in. All right, Bart, my goodness, I'm so excited to chat.
Hey, Bella, good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So you've been graduated maybe a week. It's recent.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome. Would you just start out just introducing yourself, letting us know a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, I'm Bart. I've been married for almost 20 years. We have my wife and I have 4 children, ages 4, 9, 14, and 16. We live in the southeastern part of the United States. Both of us grew up Christians, kind of born in a pew, so to speak, and have raised our children, or trying to raise our children, very much the same way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you remember how you stumbled upon Delight Your Marriage?
So initially it was through another Christian marriage app that I found it. I think, Bella, I think you were doing an interview with one of them, and so I was introduced to your information and resources. Ended up buying your book for my wife. So that's really how I was first introduced to you, was through another source.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And did you, how did you decide that you'd want to actually do a program?
So I work in childcare. I work with traumatic children and teens, and my wife and my family and I had come out of a pretty stressful few months where we were living in one of the homes with some of our children. It was because of a staffing crisis. And so that was a really stressful period for all of us. And we came out of that, and I was exhausted, just tired from the work, tired from everything, trying to do my job here where I work as the head of the agency, but then also filling in, my wife also filling in, trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband. And I was doing, my wife jokes that 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, they don't do either one well. So I was doing 3 or 4 different things and doing none of them well. And when we got out of it, I was just tired. And it was a Saturday morning, and my wife was trying to be kind of playful with me, and I just got mad and didn't like it. And she was like, yeah, this is not okay. I was just a grouch, irritable. So one of the guys in our group used the word crusty. So, and I didn't feel like I was old enough to be grouchy and irritable and crusty. And I knew something had to change. And so I think I got an email from you that said, try out a clarity call. And I said, it's free. Okay. So I got on the clarity call. And Dana was just great. Good questions, really thoughtful, thought-provoking questions that just, obviously made me think. And just made me realize, yeah, I need to do something. My marriage was not in any sort of crisis state or anything. My wife wasn't like, mad at me or anything like that. She just said, you're a butt. And I realized it. And so I knew something needed to change. I wanted to do better for her and for our kids. Uh, I've always been really, I think, amazed. I think that's the best way to put it at how far I feel like I've come in 20 years of marriage. Where I was, selfishly, and where she and I were, just in our relationship, physically, intimately, all that. And where we had been at year 1 and now where we are at year 20. And I thought, man, that's a lot of improvement. And so I hope to have that much improvement at year 40, but where I wasn't going to get there. And so I knew I needed some help. That was a long way of answering your question. I hope that. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. No, that's so good. And, kudos to your wife and to you, because first of all, for her to be playful, and then, as you've talked about a couple times, she kind of called you out on how she wasn't thrilled with how you were handling things, but then also for you to take that as, you respect your wife, you respect her opinion. And obviously she doesn't do that often. Otherwise, you wouldn't have responded that way. So that was pretty amazing that you then responded in such a way of self-reflection. Why is it that that is a very infrequent way of responding? I'm just curious. Why is it that you responded with self-reflection rather than continued the crabbiness right back at her?
That's a great question. I think some of it had to do with timing. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences. And so, did God send the email from Dana to me? I don't know. But I don't think it was a coincidence that happened. The timing was right. Like what you just said, my wife doesn't really make a habit of calling me out. And so when she does, probably need to listen. I've learned that. So I have learned that in 20 years of marriage, that I need to listen to her. So I learned that. And that was just one of those moments where, okay, I gotta do something. So I don't know. I think guys are just not prone to do that a lot, to be, to self-reflect, which I think speaks to, I think what I would emphasize here, because I think in this program, what I've seen marriages that were all over the spectrum, really good place or really bad place or whatever. And I really felt like coming in, I mean, my marriage is on a bad day is a 9. And I think most days it's a 10. I mean, my wife is just awesome. But the issue was with me. And so I felt like for her, and then for our marriage, and then for our children, I needed to do something. And so it wasn't a situation where, our marriage was falling apart or our family was falling apart. I just, wanted to make sure that we weren't going to go heading in that direction, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's just super, it's so wise, and it's really biblical, is really what it is because the Bible's so clear about our priorities, how wisdom and knowledge and gaining insight is so vital. And so when we just rest on our laurels and assume that, well, I'm just going to coast because things are just fine because my wife's doing all the stuff, I'm just impressed that you decided, no, there's not a whole lot of suffering, if you will, which is requiring me to make this choice, but you just felt like you needed to for the sake of your wife and your kids.
I think so. And one thing I talked to Dana about, one of the questions she asked was, what are you afraid of? Which was great. And I had to stop in our call and really think about that. And so that helped. But then also one of the things, and I can't remember exactly how we got there, but just I was fearful that I was treating sex transactionally. And through the course, I asked that question of my wife. I said, have you felt this way? Like, we go out on a date and I do something nice and I'm, taking it up a level and opening the door and getting you flowers and all that stuff. And she validated that that was not the case, that I did not make her feel that way. But I did talk to Dana about that because I think just the day I had the clarity call, I think we had been intimate the night before. And so the next day I'd gone and gotten her coffee or something. And I thought, am I doing that, to say thank you or to expect something? Or am I doing it just because I want to do it, just because I love her, I want to express that. And so I really had to think about that, which I guess goes back to the self-reflection point. Just really, think through what are my motivations here. And so that's one thing I feel so much better about after having gone through this course. So the first part of confronting fears, what are you afraid of? And then on the intimacy side, really thinking about, what's my motivation here? One of the things you said very early on, Bella, that I'll never forget is you said, guys, you said this in one of our calls. You said, guys, your wife knows that you like sex, that you really like it. She knows that. You don't have to tell her. Um, and and that's been a joke in our marriage. She's like, she'll ask me, she'll say, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, look, I'm interested in two things, food and sex. That's it. I'm good. You don't have to buy me anything. And so you're absolutely right when you said that she knows that. But if I had treated it, gotten to the point where it was a transaction, man, that's disrespectful and unhealthy and inappropriate, and all those things. I don't know if that answers the question you're asking, but it's just one of those, when it came to the clarity call, if I can think back, and that was back, almost 4 months ago. Those are the two things that really I remember talking about, those two areas.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think the self-reflection piece is just so important for any of us, men or women, to really think about, as you mentioned, what are our motivations? Are we motivated by love to give our spouse one thing versus another, or nothing, or something? What is it that we're motivated by? Is it to receive something in return? And I love that was a big part of your heart in wanting to recognize that, to get insight, and even ask her if she's felt this way. I thought it was fascinating. And then also the fears, to recognize what are your fears underneath of it all. That's so good. So being in the actual program itself, were there any things in particular that strikes you?
Um, so yes, plenty. The two big ones, and I don't know if you want me to get into specific content stuff here, if you're okay with that, but you talk a lot about, two things, these shore apologies, SHORE. Unfortunately, I forget the acronym exactly, but um and it was one of those things where when I did it, she was like, okay, because it was very emotional for me and it was hard and it was awkward and all those things. But she was like, you're okay. Um, and so, man, those were really powerful. And I went back years. I mean, like I said, we've been married 20 years. And so I went back to some stuff before we were married where I probably put some undue pressure on her to do some things that she didn't want to do. That's not fair. And I've thought about that many times since then and never really took the time to apologize for it. And so I did. Um, and that helped. So the apologies were a big deal. Apologizing for being grouchy and irritable and all that stuff. And her one request was, please go talk to the children about that. And so I did. I did individually, and that helped.
Wow.
And then yeah, it was super cool. And our 9-year-old was like, She was like, "What? I didn't notice that. What? You know." But she's third child, and she's a hippie basically. You know, whatever. She's her own free. She's a free spirit. I mean by that. The other thing too, I think the listening part, and I know I've talked to you about this because in my work I do a lot of it, listening to employees and kids and all that, and I'm really good at it at work, really good. When I get home, not so much, and that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to my kids. It wasn't fair to her. And so the circ, the CIRQE, uh, was so impactful because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know I was doing. Or in this case, I didn't know I wasn't doing that, and it made me stop and be physically present, put the phone down, look at her, and I've seen some changes in confidence in her because of that, I think. And then
Yeah.
again with the kids, just listening to them. I have a 4-year-old, and he's tugging on my jeans. I'm like, go away, dude. But no, that's not okay. I'm not saying I'm perfect now. I'm not like, great, but it did shine a light on an area that needed some attention, and that helped for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. Um, and then what what would you say in terms of the format, maybe the way that it's structured? Was there benefits to that, would you say?
So the way for me, I did the Monday morning accountability call and then the Thursday afternoon, and I really liked that because it gave some time. And then Monday morning was good for me because you could kind of review the weekend. So the weekends were tough for me just because I like routine and I like structure, and then the weekends are just kind of like, um, but then on Mondays I could come back and I could say, okay, this is where we were. This is how I did over the weekend. And I think the guys, it's just a good way to start the week. And then by the time we got to Thursday, I had several days to work on what the modules or what the material was for each one. So I like that structure. So I know you have other calls other days, but having that kind of Monday, Thursday um, routine helped. The one thing that I struggled, and this is just just happened to be the way it was some of our stuff fell on during the holidays. So with Christmas and New Year's being on Monday, we missed the calls, and then Thanksgiving was a Thursday and things like that. But that's not anybody's fault. It's just the way the calendar fell. And so I kind of got out of a routine, but then being able to make those weeks up later, that worked out. That worked out well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I love that. So if somebody is looking into the program who maybe has a good marriage, but kind of like you, they're just not sure they're showing up to their marriage the way they want to be. What would you maybe what kind of advice would you give him?
I think I would say none of us are perfect, and you get into a rut. I think 20 years it's a long time, and I think I think what I would say is your wife deserves better um, than whatever it is you're doing. If you're grouchy, if you're crusty, if you've gotten into a rut, um, like with date nights, for example, you call them delights, planning them, opening the door for her. When I walked next to the car for the first time to open the door for her, she just kind of looked at me like, that's okay. I mean, it was because I hadn't done it in however long. Of course, I did it when we were dating, but I just hadn't done it in so long. But she deserves better. She's, Bella, you said this 50 times. She's a daughter of the king. She's a daughter of God. I mean, she deserves to have the stinking door open for her. She deserves a rose before a date. She deserves a foot massage. She deserves all these things. Um, my wife wouldn't say that. She hates that word, deserves, but I would, respectfully disagree with her that she does. And so I think I would say, let's say your marriage is a 9 or a 10 out of 10 or whatever. You're missing something, man. Somewhere along the lines, you're missing something. And it could be so much better. And I don't mean just sex, even though, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Um, but I'll never forget one of the second or third date nights we went on in the program. I still have this image in my head of us sitting and eating and her just, rocking back in her chair laughing because we were just really enjoying being together. And that's priceless. That's super cool. And so again, our marriage, our marriage was great, still is, but there are some blind spots and it could be better.
Hmm. That's so cool. That's so cool, Bart. Awesome. Well, if there's any hesitations that you had maybe coming into the program ahead of time, and were those things alleviated just for somebody who might be having some reservations about some things?
The time commitment, and it's legit, but it's okay. I didn't, stress out and go nuts over it. You just need to set aside the time. Just know that you want to be present for those accountability calls. You want to give an hour or a little bit more, I guess, in some cases for the coaching calls. Um, it's a time commitment, but anything worth doing is. So that was blocking out time for me was a concern. How am I going to do this? Um, but I did it. You just it was important enough to me, which is why Dana. How many times does Dana ask? Are you sure you're committed? Take that seriously because it is.
Yeah.
But anything worth doing is, and it's worth it. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm. And did you see any of the other guys have changes in their
Uh,
lives?
Absolutely. So there was a guy that we started at the same time, and when he finished, it was I don't know, night and day, maybe an overstatement, but definitely some a lot of growth, a lot of change, and that was hard because he and I messaged each other um, outside of outside of the calls, and he would say stuff like, "Man, I'm so glad, so encouraged by you and your marriage," and I just felt bad because his marriage, mine was a 9 or 10 or whatever, and his wasn't. But he learned and listened, and then we were just there to kind of pray for each other and share things. And then others, there, a couple of guys, one in particular that clearly had some issues, and you were pretty firm with that particular person, and it helped. He didn't go and stick his tail between his legs. Well, maybe he did, but not for very long. But he took it well because he knew where you were coming from, the place where you were coming from. So yes, saw that. Absolutely. Absolutely saw that.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Well, yeah. Would you be willing, any final things that I maybe should have asked that you wanted to make sure you mentioned in terms of advice or encouragement?
I don't just the time it is a time commitment, but again, it's worth it. And your marriage is worth it, and your kids are worth it. You will not regret doing this. I I just yeah, I mean that's the thing. You won't regret it. If it does take a little bit of extra time out of your day, it's worth it. It's worth it. It'll pay dividends. How about that?
Mhm. That's so cool. So cool. Well, would you be willing to pray for somebody who, yeah, maybe that's really the ticket is uh, they, uh, they see themselves in some of those comments that you mentioned, the crusty, the grouchy, um, yeah, kind of just with a chip on the shoulder, um, not really suffering, but seeing that there really is some opportunity for them to self-reflect and make some changes. Would you
Yeah,
be willing to pray for him?
sure. Absolutely. Father, I do pray over whoever's hearing these words. And God, I know there's someone out there who has struggled the way that I've struggled to find joy in the daily, to find joy in a simple conversation with my wife or my children, or to take the time to actually listen to them, to show gratitude, to live in gratitude for them. I know there's somebody that's struggling, and maybe it's someone listening to my words right now. And so, Father, I pray for him that he'll give it a shot. He'll take seriously the commitment that this may be, the time commitment and financial commitment, but also know that it's worth it, and that his marriage is worth it, and that his wife is worth it, and his kids and his family. It's all worth it, and it will help, Father. You can speak through this. You clearly spoken through Belah and Dana and their team, and it's really, really good stuff, Father. And so I pray for whoever might be listening that you'll make the path available, make the time available for him to do what really he knows needs to be done, but certainly what needs to be done for what's best for his family and for his marriage. Father, please be with him, and please bless him and his journey. Thank you for the gift, Father, and thank you, Father. The gift of this course is what I mean. And Father, thank you for Jesus, and him we pray. Amen.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. This was awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Bart. This is a blessing to hear your perspective, your story, and just God bless you and the work you do for others. If you, like him, are in full-time ministry for others, I just invite you to go to delightym.com/cc. This is an opportunity for you to get the transformation, the help, the marriage support you need. And if you're a spouse also, you are welcome to get a scholarship. That wasn't something we were able to offer in the past, but again, through the donations generously of others, people that have gone through the program themselves and know how transformational it is because they have had their lives and marriages totally revolutionized. They've donated, so you can too. Obviously, funding does run out eventually, so it is a first come, first serve kind of donor pot, if you will. So I hope that you'll take the opportunity, if you're interested in the full-time ministry scholarship opportunity, that you go ahead and sign up now, delightym.com/cc. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.